Once upon a time in a kingdom far away, there lived a beautiful princess who was loved by everyone in the kingdom. The princess was known for her kindness and compassion, and she always put the needs of others before her own. She was also very intelligent and quick-witted, and she was not afraid to speak her mind. One day, a handsome prince from a neighboring kingdom came to visit. He had heard many wonderful things about the princess, and he was eager to meet her.
Ho, ho, ho!
The two of them hit it off right away, and they spent hours talking together. The prince was immediately smitten with the princess, and he asked her hand in marriage. She was flattered, but she had never met anyone like the prince before, and so she wanted to get to know him better before making a decision. She agreed to marry him if he could pass a series of tests designed to assess his character and abilities. The prince was eager to prove himself, and he began the first of the princess's tests.
Ho, ho, ho!
The first test was to find a needle in a haystack. The princess told the prince that if he could find the needle, then he would pass the test. The prince looked around for a haystack and soon found one. He started to look for the needle, but it seemed to be nowhere to be found. He looked and looked, but he was starting to lose hope when suddenly he saw something sticking out from under a bale of hay. He went over and pulled it out, and sure enough, it was a needle.
Ho, ho, ho!
The prince was so happy that he had passed the first test, and the princess was impressed with his determination and patience. The second test was to catch a fish with only a bucket and a rope. The princess told the prince that if he could catch a fish, then he would pass this part of the test. The prince went down to the river and started to fish. He cast his line out into the water and waited, but he didn't have any luck.
Ho, ho, ho!
He fished and fished, but he was starting to get discouraged when suddenly he felt a tug on his line. He pulled it in, and out popped a huge fish. The prince was so happy that he had caught a fish, and even more so because it was such a big one. The princess was amazed by the prince's skill and determination, and he passed the second test. The third test was to solve a riddle. The princess told the prince that if he could solve the riddle, then he would pass the test.
Ho, ho, ho!
The prince was up for the challenge, and the princess asked him, "What has an eye but cannot see?" The prince thought long and hard, but he couldn't come up with an answer. He racked his brain, but he was starting to get frustrated when suddenly he remembered something. He turned back to the princess and said, "Is it a needle?" The princess was impressed with the prince's quick thinking, and he passed the third test.
Ho, ho, ho!
The fourth test was to slay a dragon. The princess told the prince that if he could slay the dragon, then he would pass the test. The prince was up for the challenge, and he set out to find the dragon. He searched for the dragon all day, but he couldn't find it anywhere. He was starting to lose hope when suddenly he heard a roar. He turned around and saw the dragon coming towards him. The prince was scared, but he was determined to slay the dragon.
Ho, ho, ho!
He drew his sword and charged at the dragon. He fought and fought, but the dragon was too strong. Just when the prince thought he was going to lose, he remembered something. He took a deep breath and called the dragon's name. The dragon stopped attacking and looked at the prince. The prince took this opportunity to talk to the dragon, and he learned that the dragon was not a vicious beast, but rather a lonely creature who just wanted someone to talk to.
Ho, ho, ho!
The prince spent the rest of the day talking to the dragon, and when he returned to the castle, he told the princess what he had learned. She was amazed by the prince's compassion and wisdom, and he passed the final test. The prince had passed all of the princess's tests, and she was now ready to marry him. They were married in a beautiful ceremony, and everyone in the kingdom rejoiced. The princess and the prince were so happy together. They ruled the kingdom wisely and justly, and they were loved by their people.
Ho, ho, ho!
Now this is where the story takes an interesting turn. You see, not everyone was happy with the marriage. The princess's evil stepmother, Lady Tremaine, was furious. She had been hoping that the princess would marry the prince and take over the kingdom. But now that the princess was married to someone else, she was worried that her own power would be diminished. She hatched a plan to get rid of the princess and take over the kingdom. She went to the king and told him that the princess was unfit to be a queen.
Ho, ho, ho!
She said that the princess was lazy and irresponsible, and that she was not doing her duty to produce an heir. The king was furious, and he banished the princess from the kingdom. The princess was heartbroken, but she knew that she had to do what was best for her people. She said goodbye to the prince and left the kingdom. The princess wandered around the kingdom, not knowing where to go or what to do. She was sad and lonely, but she knew that she had to be strong. She had to find a way to make a new life for herself.
Ho, ho, ho!
The princess came across a small cottage in the woods. She knocked on the door, and a kind old woman opened it. The old woman took pity on the princess and invited her to stay in the cottage. The princess was grateful for the old woman's kindness, and she stayed in the cottage for several weeks. During her stay, the princess learned how to live in the woods. She learned how to hunt and fish, and she learned how to defend herself.
Ho, ho, ho!
She also made friends with the animals in the forest, and they helped her to feel less alone. After several weeks, the princess was ready to return to the kingdom. She knew that she could not stay in the forest forever, and she was eager to see the prince again. When the princess returned to the kingdom, she was a changed person. She was no longer the naive young girl who had been banished. She was now a strong, confident woman who was ready to take on the world.
Ho, ho, ho!
The people of the kingdom were overjoyed to see the princess return. They had missed her dearly, and they were so happy that she was back. The princess went to the palace and confronted her evil stepmother. She told her stepmother that she was through with her games and that she was going to take back what was rightfully hers. The princess was prepared to fight for her kingdom, but she didn't have to.
Ho, ho, ho!
Her evil stepmother had made so many mistakes while she had been in power that the people of the kingdom had already turned against her. The princess was reinstated as the rightful heir to the throne, and her evil stepmother was banished from the kingdom. The princess and the prince were reunited, and they were happier than ever. They ruled the kingdom together, and they were loved by their people. The princess was finally home where she belonged.
Ho, ho, ho!
And so the story of the princess who took her kingdom back is a story of courage, determination, and the importance of never giving up. The princess was willing to give up everything, including her own happiness, for the sake of her people. She was determined to do whatever it took to get her kingdom back, and she never lost sight of what was important. The story also teaches us the importance of never judging someone by their appearance. The princess may have looked like a damsel in distress, but she was anything but.
Ho, ho, ho!
She was a strong, intelligent, and compassionate woman who was capable of taking care of herself. So, if you ever feel like you're in a hopeless situation, never give up. With determination and courage, you can overcome any obstacle and achieve your goals. The story of the princess who took her kingdom back is a timeless tale that will inspire and empower readers of all ages.
Ho, ho, ho!